Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for the Queenpins Roundtable with our directors, Gita and Aron.
Hi there. So thank you so much. We loved the movie. It was so funny.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I would love to hear about the inspiration for the old letter that Simon reads to Ken. That was one of my favorite
question.
Yeah. It's funny, part of prep for this movie, we were doing these really long Zoom calls with Vince and Paul talking about their characters and going through the script. And at one point, Vince said, would it be funny if I just carried around like old World War I letters or something? And, I could have those gloves. And we were kind of all laughing. And then our friend Leo was here and he's like, my grandfather fought in World War I and he would write letters to my grandmother. And we actually found them. And so he called his wife and his wife shipped out these old letters and we started reading them and they were beautiful. And the letters in the movie are really based off of these actual letters. Like his grandfather's name is Leo Sullivan and they're all based off these real letters. And it just cracked us up that he would carry these around with him. And
but also as a postal inspector, and really we kind of did this as a little bit of that storyline as a little bit of a love letter to the post office and also postal workers and postal inspectors. And what we realized is exactly the power of that letter. I write a lot of letters now because of Queenpins, but I really love writing these letters because it is really poignant when someone gets it in the mail unexpectedly. And it's just a letter to say, I'm thinking of you. I miss you. I love you. And we really hope that it inspires people all around the world to take up letter writing again. If someone is important in your life and it's meaningful, send them a letter. Don't send them an email, but just send them a letter so they can always go back and read it and know how much you love them.
Hi, thank you so much for taking the time to do this today.
Of course, we're excited to talk with you and talk coupons.
Yes. I personally like that the female leads don't resort to tearing each other down, even when things get super stressful. Was that always the plan, to have these two women love and support each other no matter what?
Yeah, that was definitely intentional. We talked early on when we were writing the script that it was really important that Aron and I were married, but we're also best friends, but also we have other friends that we've known for 20, 25 years that have gone on significant journeys and had tremendous obstacles. And really it was the obstacle they were fighting, not turning on each other. And that was the obstacle. So it was definitely intentional to do that. And it's very different than what a lot of comedies with, buddy comedies are like. So we tried to change that up.
Usually in a buddy movie, 2/3 of the way through, they have a big fight and they sort of mope around for 5 minutes and then come back together. And we really wanted to avoid that cliche. And also, to us, it's friends lift each other up and don't. So that was something that we were definitely trying to avoid from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
How did you go about creating characters that were doing illegal things and still make them endearing and somebody that you would root for in the end?
Well, part of that is the power of Kristen and Kirby being so likable because, we knew early on that Connie really needed to be someone that would be likable even as they're committing crimes. And when we sat down with Kristen, one of the first things she said to us was just that. She said, for some reason, even if I'm behaving badly as a character, audiences still enjoy watching me do that. And when she said that, we're like, she has to be Connie because that's exactly what we need.
Yeah. And I think the same thing with Kirby. I don't think, and this is something that's really important when we write characters, is that we don't judge our characters. We come from a journalism and documentary background, and it's important for us to know that we as human beings are imperfect. We make good choices and we make bad choices in life, but we don't want to always be judged by those bad choices. And so we really felt the journey that Kristen and Kirby were going on were really about just life choices and really accepting what those decisions are. And then they're putting yourself in situations that can be crazy and dangerous and absurd sometimes, but it's because of the choices that you make. And we hope that you love them just as much as you like Paul and Vince as well, because you might not like some of the choices that Paul makes in a car, for example, but it also is true to the situation that he's in.
What made you want to make this movie?
I mean, I think what made us want to make it is, we were feeling a lot like Connie and JoJo. We were feeling kind of undervalued and discounted in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And for years, we had been trying to get these other scripts off the ground. And we kept being told by financiers, we love the script, we love the actors that you have attached to it, but you don't have any value in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just trying to change that equation. We knew that was the only thing we could control. And we said, well, let's write a comedy that is more commercial in a smaller budget, and maybe we can get it made. I think what we didn't know is that we were kind of channeling that feeling into our characters, because then we write a movie about these two women that felt undervalued, that found a loophole around the system to succeed.
Yeah.
And I'm particularly compelled by stories that are inspired by true events. And so I wanted to find out how did you come about this story? Like, did you know about this whole couponing scheme?
On a blog.
On a coupon blog.
Oh, really? And then what factual parts of the story did you choose to include, and how you decided what to include, and then kind of take your own creative spin on?
You talk about the...
Yeah, sure. So, out here, if there's an interesting story, usually it's scooped up super fast by George Clooney or Brad Pitt's company. It's people who can have access to things very quickly get them before we do. So we're always felt like we're always the last in line. So Aron and I ended up taking deep dives on the internet and just trying to search for some really interesting true stories that might make it worth a Hollywood movie. And we ended up, I don't even remember how, but we ended up on a coupon blog. And there were just 3 lines talking about a $40 million coupon caper. And it happened to have the name of the detective in Phoenix who investigated this case. So we immediately called the detective, and we were like, wow, this is an incredible story. And we got in our car and drove basically a week later to Phoenix, Arizona, and started researching and writing the film.
And he would show us, he showed us photos from the investigation and actual counterfeit coupons that the women had used. But what we realized too is, we loved the scam and what they did and how much money they made and what they did with the money and how crazy it got. But we really wanted to create our own characters within the framework of that coupon scam. And we wanted to say something with those characters and have them be sort of lovable Robin Hood types. And so we don't really know a lot about the real women that did it. We just know about that investigation. And then we really created our own characters within it. So the coupon scam was the inspiration and launch pad that we then built the story around.
What do you think is the message that you want your viewers to take home with?
Yeah, I mean, when we were making this film in the height of the pandemic in Los Angeles, we told our cast and crew, listen, once we get through this, there are going to be people who have been struggling and just need to find some joy and happiness in their lives. And we really believe Queenpins can be that film for them. So if we do our job well, we can bring them a little bit of joy and a little bit of happiness. And through this process, if people are feeling undervalued or discounted, hopefully we can inspire them to find their own legal loophole to be able to find their self-worth.
Yeah, and to not let other people define your worth. I think that was something that we were feeling in Hollywood. We weren't going to let these financiers define what our worth was. And for them, in their lives, when we meet them, and it's not just Connie and JoJo, it's also Ken and Simon, all of them are sort of undervalued in their worlds, but they don't let other people define their worth ultimately. And they all find ways to, take a step ahead in their life and in their growth as people.
Yeah. It was fascinating to see how the fertility journey of Connie was woven through the movie. And I was curious if there was an inspiration to that, because I think that the financial cost of fertility treatments is sometimes not talked about, and it kind of caused her desperation. I was just curious, kind of where that inspiration came from for that part of the storyline.
There were a couple of inspirations. The first one is when we started thinking about who Connie could be. We had watched this program about Olympic athletes and how so many of them
in the US.
are struggling
Yeah.
financially and using coupons. And because the US doesn't subsidize our Olympians the way a lot of countries do. So we liked the idea of her being this former Olympian who had something in her life and it had been taken away from her at a young age. And then we started reading about how a lot of women Olympic athletes have a lot of trouble conceiving because of what they put their bodies through. So then that came into it. And then I think as we started doing sort of a deep dive into what that meant, you know, we would watch videos. You would just be
I would be bawling. Yeah.
Watching these YouTube videos of these women that were going through IVF treatments and all of the roller coasters.
What we didn't realize was just how many people turned to IVF and the cost that was associated with it. And then also the opportunity that can come from it in a joyous way, but also for so many, the missed opportunities. It just doesn't happen for them. And realizing that you have to pay to just want a family seemed so challenging. And it wasn't really discussed in a way before that we felt was meaningful and heartfelt. And also the part where you don't succeed wasn't really discussed a lot in anything that we ever saw before on film. And we really wanted to just really appreciate the person that is suffering and really recognize that suffering and go on that journey of how do you try to move forward from the suffering of not being able to have the dream that you want, which is the family.
Even though it was a comedy, we had never made a comedy before, but we didn't want to make one that was just sort of surface. We wanted it to have some depth and some heart and address some issues that maybe you wouldn't normally find in a comedy.
Yeah.
I would love to know if there's any fun facts that you could share about the film that maybe the audience does not know.
I have a fun fact that isn't in the movie, but I think you guys might find interesting is there was the TLC show Extreme Couponing that was on. The detective who dealt with the real investigation, he believed that the reason that show was able to have such big savings is because they were using coupons from these women that were counterfeiting them. And when they arrested these women, that show went off the air. So, and he actually attempted to try to prove that they were using counterfeit coupons from these women, but it never.
Well, the show shut down before he could.
He never sort of pursued it, but we always thought that was very interesting. That the show went away as soon as these women were arrested, the real women. That's my fun fact.
Yeah.
You two created like the Bollywood, the initiative to, bring Bollywood to more Hollywood movies. I just wanted to know a little bit about that and why you think that's important to mix the two.
We're a pretty good combination. Aaron's from rural Maine and my family's from India. And we feel like we're stronger together because we're taking our two cultures and backgrounds and merging them to make interesting stories and tell stories about our lives. And we thought, what a great way to kind of take this to the next level, which is bringing Hollywood filmmakers to India to learn about what Bollywood is like, and vice versa, bringing Indian filmmakers to the United States and really getting them access to doors that weren't open to us when we first came. But now we can open those gates a little bit more to key decision makers to just help other artists succeed and not have to fight as much as we've had to over the past 7 years.
Great cast. Can you talk a little bit about bringing on people like Vince and Kristen?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we wrote the script, we didn't have anybody necessarily in mind for Connie. But then when somebody said Kristen Bell, we just knew that she would be great. And when we met with her and she had responded to the script, one of the first things she said to us was, when she's like, for some reason, even if my characters are doing criminal acts, breaking the rules, audiences still usually love me. And that was something that she recognized in herself and in her work, but we knew it was exactly what we needed for Connie. And then, she had worked with Kirby before and, we met with Kirby and she just seems so perfect. And then Paul and Vince as well, when we met with them, they had a friendship going off camera before and had wanted to work together. So it really felt like both of those main duos were friends off camera, had this great chemistry, and we had just hoped that it would carry over into the movie. And we kind of think we're like the third buddy duo in the movie.
And also, in screenwriting, the love story, the B story of the movie is the love story usually. And we just wanted to try something more creative. And in this case, we thought, wouldn't it be fun if that B story was Vince and Paul's journey, which is oil and water. And then in the end, they end up really appreciating their friendship and valuing that friendship.
Was that a real Michael J. Fox quote? And if so, what made you guys want to include that piece in the film?
It is a real Michael J. Fox quote. And at some point we knew we wanted there to be this quote about family, and we were looking at different quotes, and we saw this one that from Michael J. Fox, and we grew up both loving him, and our casting director, one of her first jobs was casting Family Ties, and it just felt like we miss that there's not more Michael J. Fox out there now, and it felt perfect. It felt like he would be in a movie like this, so it all just fits. And also, at one point, the president of Mexico is President Fox, so we also thought it was really funny that this dialogue was also happening. It's like as JoJo's trying to figure out, like, wait, like the actor. So it all just kind of felt like it played well into the comedy. Hopefully he sees it. We want Michael J. Fox to see this movie.
When I was first watching the movie, I was thinking, this is supposed to be a comedy. Why am I about to cry? Because I was watching the IVF journey. But focusing on the coupons, did anyone really get into it? Did you have anybody dumpster dive or take their binders to the store? I mean, I'm not saying I've ever done any of those things. Because I totally have. But not the point. Did anybody really kind of get into it to see how it really feels?
For sure, yeah. I mean, Kristen's grandmother was a huge couponer, I know. Yeah. And Kirby really jumped in, maybe not to a dumpster, but she would talk to us about, like, every Sunday she was clipping coupons and putting them in a binder. And she's like, it takes a lot of time. And she went into the store and would use a lot of coupons. And she was like, I almost didn't believe it when I read the script about, like, the judgment that you might feel. But she's like, I really felt this judgment when I pulled out all of these coupons. Yep. But then she's like, I saved so much money, I didn't care. She's like, I'm owning it. And that was really, she was saying, like, I think she got like a case of water for free. And she was like, I was so ecstatic walking out, because she was like, I can't believe I got this for free. But it was actually a really great experience for her psychologically, of feeling like down when people were seeing what she was trying to do, but then feeling that rush of the coupon high. And what we hope this movie really does is take away any stigma behind coupons, because we really believe you are far smarter to use a coupon than having to pay full price for something. So why pay full price if you have a coupon sitting there that gives you something off? We feel like it's a love letter to extreme coupon users, because when we saw that world, we're just like, this is fascinating, the kind of money they save, and we loved it. And we think they're just really smart for doing what they do.
I'm not an extreme couponer, but I am a couponer. And that's why I was kind of wondering what inspired you all to take that direction with the film. Because a lot of people are against couponers and they get upset, when you're in the store and you're paying for your stuff and you're leaving out paying pennies. I wanted to know what that inspiration was. And I think you just answered it. I don't know if you want to kind of elaborate a little bit more. I mean, I think there's something in the US economy. We were doing a whole study to write this script about the importance of coupons. And what we found is coupons are the foundation of our economy. Without coupons, people aren't buying. When you have the question, is it a need or is it a want? Now, when you put that coupon there with a ticking time clock, it automatically becomes a need. So people are purchasing, but they're also getting a good deal. And we read about JCPenney and heard that when, like, years ago, a CEO tried to get rid of coupons. And when he did it, because he wanted to give fair prices for everybody.
His plan was, we'll get rid of coupons, but have everyday low prices.
And when he did that, he almost bankrupted the company, and the company lost $4 billion. And so that is just the one company to see that financial impact was surprising to us. But then we understood, like, this is also just an anomaly in the US, right? Like, in other parts of the world, they don't use coupons. But here, it's such a tie to our economy that there's a value to it. And now
I think it also has to do with this culture here of like, you want to feel these little wins. You want to feel like you're getting a good value.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that is kind of tied to the American spirit. So